Nigeria's low export capacity continues to be one of the major issues hampering its economic growth in recent times. The above challenge is due to the country's export output, which has been increasingly low over the years, and the fact that the oil and gas sector is majorly driving exports at about 76 to 78% reveals there is an imbalance. The Central Bank of Nigeria, in conjunction with banks' chief executives, continued with the implementation of the race to $200 billion non-oil export earnings RT200 program by convening the maiden edition of the biannual non-oil summit, teamed with the theme setting the roadmap toward achieving RT200.
To go on, I think maybe Mohammed Koko should help us first.
Okay.
You know, we now have the Lekki Deep Sea Port, which is a great thing which your institution has done. But we do have challenges with the port with respect to transportation. The fact that we don't have a rail line connecting it, all right, in itself is going to put a lot of pressure on the system. Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing that at least we do have that port. But what do you think we need to do? What plans do you have in mind to help decongest and make sure we don't find ourselves in the same situation that Apapa is, if you get the point I'm trying to make? If you can share with us, Koko.
Now, we all know that Lekki Port is definitely going to come on stream between September to October this year. It will be able to handle vessels the size of which have not visited the country because of the draft of that channel. One of the first issues we realized many months ago was how to evacuate cargo out of that location. The road has been concessioned, or award has been given for the reconstruction of the road to Dangote under the tax scheme. But of course that has not started. And between Nigerian Ports Authority and Lekki Deep Sea Port, we realized that if that is not resolved, then that means we'll be having a replica of what is happening in Apapa and Tinkan. And the use of barges is already being explored. So currently there are locations that are going to be used for evacuation of cargo using barges. Now it's either to locations outside Lagos or locations within Lagos itself. And that has been explored. The studies are being carried out currently. But what we are encouraging Lekki Deep Sea Port to do is to first of all concentrate on getting transit cargo into Nigeria. These are cargoes that we used to have in those days before we lost it to neighboring African countries. We've started discussions with Lekki Deep Sea Port in terms of what tariffs will be charged, because transit cargoes are extremely sensitive to pricing, in the sense that the importer of those cargoes is bringing them into the first location, which in this case would be Lekki, and then it will now have to move to another country. And Lekki Deep Sea Port has come up with tariffs that we are looking at, and I think in the next few weeks we will address that. But we've been discussing with Federal Ministry of Works and Housing in terms of the need to start reconstruction of that location. The e-call-up system will already be deployed to Lekki. That way also you are going to have a seamless flow of traffic. But let me state that Lekki will not be like Tinkan and Apapa. Tinkan and Apapa, you have to go there physically to a large extent for documentation, for clearing, and so on and so forth. It's an automated port where you can actually start the process of documentation and clearing of your goods from your home or from your office. So it means physical presence will not actually be needed in Lekki. So that reduces the human traffic there. For trucks, we have already started identifying locations where we'll have truck parks. We're discussing with private investors to create truck parks within that axis, just like we also have outside the red corridor of Tinkan and Apapa ports. It means that when you have those trucks in those locations, they only go in to pick up their cargo when the cargo is ready for evacuation. But I believe that between October and November, construction of the road from Lekki Deep Sea Port into the city will be coming up. Now recall that when the president also visited Lekki, he directed the then Minister of Transportation to start a survey to ensure that a rail line is brought into Lekki. The essence here is to connect the rail line that is from Lagos to Ibadan to Lekki, so that there will be cargo evacuation from Lekki to some of the dry ports that are either in Ibadan and other locations. Now, of course, that will not be immediate. The survey work has not actually gone very far. But if that is done, we believe that that will ensure that we don't have that gridlock that we have in Tinkan and Apapa. We are working with both the Federal Ministry of Transportation, Nigerian Railway Corporation, and Lekki Deep Sea Port to ensure that these initiatives are in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that for me is one of the most important things, the rail line you are speaking about. And maybe one of the things we need to do is to also set up a summit or a private discussion panel with banks to see how banks can intervene as quickly as possible. As I listened to you, I found the same issue all of us have, which is about imports rather than exports, if you get the point I'm trying to make. So I think we need to spend some time together. I know that you have your own game plan, but having been a banker yourself, I've been in the private sector, I think we need to have a deeper meeting to see how we can help or support that whole initiative right from now. If not, when you're not there, what would happen? If you get the point I'm trying to make, the whole initiative would die. But I think the next person to speak to would be the Deputy CG of Customs. And this is more, sir, you would find out that by the time Mahmouda and everybody speaks, that one of the problems that people raise has to do with the level of documentation required in the ports. Some of them may be archaic, if you get the point I'm trying to make, may have outlived their usefulness, but particularly for exports, it's a big issue. What are you doing within the customs to streamline it? I'll give you a simple example of what my experience a few weeks ago. I went to visit a neighboring country, and they told me that to travel out of that country, up until 5 years ago, all the citizens had to get police clearance even to leave the country. Until the vice president woke up one day, who was a young boy, I said, what are we doing with what benefit is it? And you are making things difficult for people to even come into the country. So the country can never grow, if you get the point I'm trying to make. So I'm bringing that analogy to some of the documentation and processes, particularly for exports. What can we do to improve all of that? Or what steps are you taking within the customs to handle that?
Yeah, for us, in the customs, role essentially is trade facilitation. We are drivers of the export value chain, and like you rightly pointed out, yes, documentation is key. But for us to be able to get it more seamlessly, I guess we have to go do full automation. You know, the processes need to be automated. We have the documents, the requisite documents that are used in the export value chain, which are essentially the NXP and the CCI, and these documents need to be automated, so much so that from the customs end, and it should be integrated into our NICES2 platform. This is like a one-stop shop where, you know, all the agencies and the stakeholders can directly, like for the exporter in the comfort of their homes, they can be able to process their documents. They can see the documents real-time online if the process is digitalized and automated end-to-end. So that looks to us like a little constraint. For the, I mean, we don't want to go into imports but I mean, drawing an analogy from the import side, we have all the, like the Form M regime, we have the E-Form M, and all the other documents like the PAR and etc. They are all integrated onto that NICES platform. And at the click of a finger, you are able to see all the documents, you know, because some of these documents, when you look at manual transmission of these documents, you find out that, you know, it kind of delays the process, you know, because, I mean, documents will come from the PIA office, for example, like in a real life situation, documents will come from the PIA, they will be dispatched manually. It may interest you to know these documents are dispatched manually to customs, and then we also, at the level of releasing of the cargo, we should be able to click at the click of a finger, look at the SGDs, that's the single declaration forms, ESGDs in terms of export, and also see all the other documents, real time online, but that isn't what we have at the moment.
But the point is, how long can it take to digitize this process? With the right partnerships, it will not take 90 days to digitize the entire process.
Yes. But at the level of government, I guess it's something that goes beyond the customs. Automating that process goes beyond the customs.
Okay.
So we should be thinking about, like we are doing now, engaging the CBN, engaging the Federal Ministry of Finance on that particular.
So this must be, I guess, part of
solution.
Part of the thing we're trying to achieve here is to identify these things.
Yes, sir.
And create a permanent solution amongst ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Some of the Nigerian banks here who are present in Ghana, Zenith, GT, etc., help set up something at the ports in Ghana. There's nothing like a long room. Whether you're exporting or you're importing, it's robotics, and it goes through. Now, if that could have happened in just neighboring Ghana, and I've gone to see the port in Mombasa, how can this be for us who are such a great country? We think that because we keep hearing this from, we have created smaller panels with exporters, all right, that this is a major disincentive, if you get the point I'm trying to make. So maybe one of the things we need to take away from today's conference is that we actually need to understand, because quite frankly, in customs, you are the highest level. Same thing, central bank is represented here. Ministry of Finance is not far away. Why can't we just create a deadline and tell ourselves that over the next 90 days, we will deal with this problem and do it? Get point of it.
Yes, as it were, it requires a whole of government approach so that we are able to, digitalize and automate the process.
Yeah, so I just want to add, I think the problem with this so-called automation is that each of the stakeholders is working in silos. So the level of automation of Nigerian Ports Authority is not the same with that of customs or the shipping lines and so on and so forth. That's the first problem. The second problem is that when we all automate, will you be able to integrate the system? So what it simply means is we need to have one system, and that is the National Single Window. It's a project that has been on stream for over 15 years, and this government has tried to also get it on and implement it. There is a committee headed by the Vice President that has been trying to implement the National Single Window. And what is the National Single Window? It's a simple platform of interface where you exchange data, where you fill only one form. And that form is enough for Nigerian customs, Nigerian immigration, if they need anything, Standard Organization of Nigeria, and so on and so forth. It's also a platform where you make payment. And when you make that payment, whether you're an importer or an exporter, if you are paying 5 government agencies, and you are supposed to pay a total of, say, 100,000 naira, you pay that 100,000 naira, and the system automatically distributes the money to the relevant. Now, I'm pleading with the central bank governor that is sitting here and everyone to see this as a national project. It's really important. Smaller countries, neighboring countries have things like this. What we have done in the Nigerian Ports Authority is to get the International Maritime Organization to consult for us. And we are implementing or deploying a port community system. The port community system is a platform that is not going to jettison the e-customs, it's not throwing away what the shipping lines have, or immigration and so on. What we have done was to invite all the stakeholders to join us. And the first phase of it was through virtual meetings. And in that virtual meeting, we discussed and agreed on modalities for deployment of the port community system. And everybody is supposed to log into it, whether you're a shipping line, a freight forwarder, terminal operator, Nigerian Port Authority itself, the customs. And then it is a platform where you exchange data. The data becomes reliable, easily accessible, you can easily analyze it, and then you can make use of it. It now serves as a platform for the national port community, for the national single window. So I think unless we approach it from this angle, we are all going to be digitizing, deploying IT tools, but they are not in tandem, they are not working, they are not having handshake, and they are not integrated. So I think that is where the problem actually is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It can only be as a result of function of all the different participants in the ecosystem. So Nigerian Ports Authority, Ministry of Finance, the consumer, customs, etc., and an integrated approach. Now, because of what you do and the things that you've done, obviously, I think one of the things that we need to take away is that we can set up a team to basically create all of that. If certain things were achieved in the banking industry, as you know, all right, in terms of the interconnectivity of banks, in terms of BVN, in terms of all those things, this can be achieved as well. Sure. If you get the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. And all it just requires is for us to take representatives of all the different participants in that ecosystem and basically deal with it. But Neroli, what are your issues? What is the greatest pain that you face in terms of the inspection agents, and how can we improve on it?
For the inspection part, we don't have issues with exporters. But the main issues are what I've said here. Now, we are also located close to the ports, and I empathize with exporters. You can have your container standing on that Apapa road for a while, and at times there is theft. At times the thing is perishable and they lose money.
Yeah.
But also I want to speak to also the exporters in terms of the new trend now of theft. Now you keep a container with value of 50 million naira, and you put a driver, you don't have his dossier, you can't trace it. You have transporters that you cannot trace.
It's not their fault.
No, what I'm saying is that
it's what is available.
They need to, first of all, make sure that they always have good
insurance.
Yes,
that will pay.
And then they should ensure that the truck owners too are reliable, people they can reach out to in case there is a loss. Because now the issue of theft is increasing, and that's a serious problem for exporters. But also the infrastructure aspect is also very, very important. So many times I've seen containers fall along Apapa.
Yeah.
Now, if you are taking your container into Apapa through Ikoju Road towards Costain, and then after Costain, it's so bad that if you navigate there, you're not careful, the container falls. So we need to put those places. I don't know what it's going to cost to just put a fix to that road, so that we will have the faster and better deal for this service.
But Bolaji, you are a banker. All of us here know some of the problems. Speak to us about what you think we can do to start solving them.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I think that the solution to driving exports in the medium term to long term is outside Lagos. And I want us to think about two things. We must start thinking about setting up a deep sea port outside Lagos. Outside Lagos, somewhere around Ondo State, that has access to all the bitumen, all the cocoa, all the products we want to export. It takes more than $1,000 to move products from outside Lagos to Lagos. It takes about 3 months to ship. A deep sea port outside Lagos, combined with an economic zone, a special economic zone, within the port, will solve logistics. With a gas-powered structure, will solve power, will reduce cost, and that's the way to go. Now, as bankers, we are solving this issue the way we are solving power, buying individual generators. But if you set up a cluster, a special economic cluster, just 3 in Nigeria, and we fund it close to a deep sea port. All the producers will produce cheaply, we would have efficiency, we would create jobs. So what we have to do is just look at what happened in Morocco, Tanga Port, Economic Free Zone, in Egypt, Alexandria Free Trade Zone, in Ethiopia, Kawasawa Free Trade Zone, all close to the ports. So I think we should adopt the concept of shared services like we did in banking and apply it to this real export challenge, but not as individual solutions, but as a cluster. And we'll solve this problem within a 5-year problem. But telling us all to do individual lending and support, we're not going to make a lot of progress in the long term. Thank you.
Let me make a comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just bring in a perspective here. If you look at all the issues that have been discussed here, all the challenges have been there since maybe the 70s, and the approach will be something that we need to look at here. We've always adopted a solution-driven approach to solving problems. It is important that we also look at taking a new perspective in terms of problem-driven iteration approach, which I know Herbert is aware of. And this is because if we have solutions, but those solutions are bringing out the same outcomes that are suboptimal, then it means, one, that either we don't understand the problems properly, or two, we are not engaging the proper stakeholders that are supposed to address the problem. And I think the presenter also highlighted important parts of this. So I think where we should go to is to adopt this problem-driven iteration approach, where we take the problems, the lower hanging fruits, identify the critical stakeholders, because you can have a problem and you don't even know who to help you or to find out who to help you. Herbert asked the customs, about automation, and we see the advancement that the Port Authority has done compared to the Nigerian custom. So you see different levels of development or different levels of advancement or adoption of technology or technical solutions. So it is important that we sit down, like he has said, and identify smaller groups that will look at the individual subsectors' challenges. Try to understand the problem, because if you don't really understand the problem, the solutions you are given will not solve the problem. So I think we don't really understand the problem. We think we do. So we start from solutions. If we automate this, this will happen. If we do this, this will happen. But we've been doing them. Automation has been going on in custom, has been going on in Port Authority, but we still see inefficiencies in those places. So, Chairman, my suggestion is to take that approach, diagnose the problem more, do a fishbone, give the branches, identify the stakeholders, identify the helpers, identify the skill gaps, and put all that together and start building the solution-solving approach gradually from the bottom, not from the top, and start going down. Thank you.
I know I'm running out of time, but let me ask, Mamuda Limited, Alaji, in terms of moving your product to the final destination point, are all the problems you have to confront, have we identified them? What do you think is the most significant?
Thank you very much, Chairman. In fact, actually, all what has been said here is precisely the problems. Is transportation from the hinterland to the port is a very, very serious issue. But I think if we can fast track the rail, the large dry port will definitely be of great help. And in fact, now as at the moment, another crucial issue is the price of diesel. So even getting the vehicles to load your consignment down to the port is another. So we now resort to be exporting by air.